Welcome back, folks. This is RGR Craft, and Mike and I are back together virtually anyway, drinking beers. Got some things to talk about with you. If you haven't seen any of our beer reviews lately, we kind of split it up. We're doing some in-depth ones where we really dig into the methodology, maybe the BJCP type stuff. And then we have some quick ones where we each are just drinking some random beers. And we're going to give you a lot of our thoughts, not only about the craft industry and how you go about things, but a lot of these beer reviews. So I've been excited about that. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm having fun with these beer reviews.
Right.
New thing for me, but I think, I think they're going to be fun. I like doing the one that we did on, or that I did on Citra.
Yeah.
Citra Pale Ale. I'm really looking forward to some feedback. I hope people are liking these.
Yeah, and I'm sure, I know you've inspired multiple people I know to start drinking that, so it's working. And it's not just, folks, if you're in Colorado, all these that we drink, you're going to hear a lot of it. And I hope to build the following here that is Colorado-based, but we're going to cover everything for everyone, not only around the country, but around the world. So welcome. I hope that you guys enjoy this. If you're not, make sure you hit the sub, the like, and the bell notification so you know when something new goes up. We're going to have a couple of videos a week for you now. We're building up our repertoire and how we're going to produce video for you. So today, I'm drinking my Saison. Pretty happy. Got it carved to about 2.8. I'm pretty happy with the bubblature. It's probably the best, the most classic carbonation I've gotten on any of my Belgian styles yet. So I'm trying not to focus on it too much, but I do love those.
Yeah, that looks good. How did you carb that?
You know, I just burst carb it. I cool it all the way down. The nice thing is with the conical, I get it down to 35 degrees before it goes in the keg. So this one didn't get fining agents, but most of the IPAs and everything else get a little fining agent, usually Biofine Clear. In the bottom of the keg, pressure transfer on top of that, the closed system with no oxygen exposure. I find that that's cleaning things up. And then it's already so cold, I can usually burst it like 35 to 40 PSI for 24 hours and I'm done.
Yeah.
So that's been working really well for me. I know you sometimes take a little bit longer and go a little more classic route with carbonation, right?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll dial it up to 30, 35, do what you're doing, right, just for speed. But, sometimes I'm just patient. I'll just leave it on 12 PSI, whatever it normally is in there, and just let it go,
Yeah.
Depends. But
well, and it's funny because I do that and I end up drinking my beer too young. So
yeah, right. I know that is a problem.
Especially with this is the Saison Monster from Omega. It took a little bit longer to clear. So yes, I was carbonated, but I wasn't clear enough to drink it yet. So
right.
it kind of canceled itself out. So I like your system as well. And carbonation is something, folks, that we've actually not only talked about quite a bit, but we've learned quite a bit together at some of the festivals we've gone to, some of the other situations. And one thing that we're going to be doing again is we will be covering GABF for you. We will be attached as media. Hopefully, we're waiting for the schedule to see what the special events are, but we'll be there and we'll have it covered for you. We'll have our reactions. We'll tell you about what this virtual version of GABF will be this year. And I'm pretty pumped. How do you feel?
I'm on the fence, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what? This isn't Great American Beer Festival. It's not. I mean, right. By name only, right? Of course, it's the same people saying, what can you do? But, it's not tens of thousands of people going through the Denver Convention Center, drinking hundreds of thousands of, beers, hundreds of breweries being represented. Right. It's just not, right. It's, so yeah, I'm really curious to see how they're going to pull this off. Right. So, I mean, so far what I know is for, just for the general public, right. It's 2 nights, 5:30, 9:30, whatever, of online sessions where, people are basically talking, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of conference style kind of thing.
Yeah.
How fun can that be? I mean, I'm glad they're doing something, but how fun that can be. And then I guess also there's some sort of brewery deals,
there's quite a number, there's like over 1,000 participating.
Yeah. So I haven't really looked into that. I'm really more interested in the, like the actual festival content. So it's really more of a online conference now, isn't it?
Yeah.
With speakers and stuff. So yeah, I don't know how well this can, I'm sure they're going to do a good job, but it's just not going to be Great American Beer Festival. So we got to accept it for what it is.
You're absolutely right. And that changes things. I not only for you as a participant, but also for the breweries too. And I give them credit because this is such a strange and messed up year to try to do what is like the crown of the craft beer industry has to be in person. So I'm going to support them fully. I'm going to go to everything that I can get to. And honestly, I thought one of the best events last year was the paired event that they had, that we got to see how you put meals with beers and you cross those and actually get them not only to complement each other, but how to contrast each other as well. So I think there'll be a session on that. I'm looking forward to it. And I'll be in and on all those because I can't get enough food and beer together. So.
Yeah, I think there's actually two beer and food pairing sessions. One is I think just watching somebody do a beer and food pairing. Okay, we'll see how that goes. I think the more valuable of the two will be the one that's immediately following that, which is basically a how-to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how to pair food with beer. That will be interesting, right? I'm very much more interested in learning how to do things as opposed to just watching somebody do it, for sure.
Yep. I am too. And I try to take little things like I have something, we're recording this over the Labor Day weekend, folks. I have something on the smoker right now. I try to take little bits and pieces in that and put it with the right beers. And it's a good experiment. A couple of things. We've got a tri-tip on there that we're doing Kansas City style burn ends with. We're doing some regular old chicken wings, and then we've got a nice pork roast that we're going to do last. And that's going to be like really low, like 175 degrees for 3 days or something. I don't know.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's going to be fun. But there'll be a lot of beers to go along with that. So the interesting thing for me, and we've been to GABF, 4 or 5 years together.
Mm-hmm.
We spent a lot of time there, and they're going to stream the award show. I actually like sitting in there. I've got a lot of friends that are in the industry, and I like to see them get happy when they get awarded. So I'm going to still watch that. But for like the average person out there who wants to participate or wants to get ready for 2021, what's your favorite take about being on the floor that day, and how do you go about attacking the monstrosity that is GABF?
Wow. Yeah. Well, first thing, it's interesting that, the award ceremony I've never really been that interested in. Yeah, I'm not quite sure why. I'm going to go experience those beers one way or another, right? But it's being at the award ceremony isn't that great of a deal for me. Maybe, now that I'm actually part of the media, that'll become more interesting, but we'll see. But how I attack GABF, some survival tips. We usually go to the Saturday session, which is for members of the American Home Brewers Association. I think the sessions that we go to, or that session in particular, is a little bit different than the others, right? I think, Friday's kind of like frat night. It's just a big giant party. Saturday's a little bit more subdued, but I think there's more representation from the actual brewers because there are home brewers there, right? I think, there's a lot of conversation to be had with people that can talk beer. Mm-hmm. The Saturday session, I think, is that's my first strategy, is always try to make that one. The second thing that I try to do is I make a beeline as soon as we get in for the Pro-Am winners, mm-hmm. because that beer is not going to last very long, right? Yeah. And they're winners of a competition, so you're pretty much guaranteed to have some really good beers there that you may never be able to try again.
Yeah.
So those are the two things that I really try to strategize, out the gate, is Saturday and Pro-Am winners.
Yeah.
It's funny. I always walk into GABF with a plan, and it's like maybe 15 beers that I have to try first before I wreck my palate. And of course, you're like 2 or 3 tables in before that whole plan just falls apart.
Yeah, and it's usually me that derails your plan because I don't have a plan. I can make you a couple of guarantees. I will be at the Fremont booth no matter what at some point. Otherwise, it's a free-for-all. It depends on the year, and quite frankly, I do a lot of looking before we get there about who brought what, not just who entered and whatever, but who's actually pouring X beer. I thought one of the highlights for me last year was Reuben's. Not only their barley wine, but everything that they brought was great. Lupulin in Minnesota, Surly in Minnesota. Fremont is one of my favorites. You'll be hard-pressed to find a beer from them that I don't like. But that said, going back to the fact that we're not there in person, it's hard to get the sensory part of this. So one of the things that we're going to concentrate on, folks, is giving you our sensory perceptions of these beers as we do it. Not just, oh, this tastes good. We're going to try to elaborate as much as we possibly can and give you a kind of a virtual taste of it. And that's the goal. And that said, if you are in Colorado and you're part of a homebrew club, or you're part of somebody who wants to participate, or you have an opinion on some of this, I'd love to hear from everybody down in the comments. If you're in a homebrew club around the state, we'd like to know what you think too. This is a conversational place. We're going to build this channel in some place we can all talk. So Mike and I will do the heavy lifting for now, and you guys can join in when you feel like it. But
yeah, I'm going to be really curious to see how other groups, if there are actual groups attending, right, virtually. You and I will be attending virtually, together.
We're a group of two.
Right. From a safe distance, 6 feet.
Right. Or 60 miles, whatever it is.
Right. But there's, certainly homebrew clubs and stuff. This would actually be a pretty fun event. If you are going to attend virtually, do it with your homebrew club,
Yeah.
It's certainly more fun to do this within a group than it would be just, by yourself in your basement on a Friday and Saturday night.
That's for sure. And more and more homebrew clubs are going virtual because of participation and because of this COVID thing. So if you're interested in that too, contact us. We'll try to hook you up with what we know around the nation. And certainly maybe we'll end up with our own homebrew club just based on the channel. We'll find out. But you're actually part of one. And that's what I wanted to get to next. How do you and your club go about GABF? Do you all just kind of spread and conquer and bring notes back? Do you share that, or is not everybody even into it?
Funny, I honestly have not interacted with my homebrew club. I feel a little bit of shame here. I haven't interacted with them very much for a variety of reasons. Obviously, COVID situation is one of them, and also just timing is another. But, my homebrew club, Backcountry Homebrew Club, they're there every year. We've got a good, decent following at GABF. I don't know how the gang's going to be going this year. Probably should have done a little research before we talked about this.
Hey guys, if you're watching, let us know.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll find out for sure.
Well, I think that it's going to be a unique event, and I think it's a stopgap until next year. So that's kind of what I'm aiming up for. And I look at what I can learn, but also what I can find that's new to my palate that can help me apply it to my beers, or even just how I'm brewing. So my question to you would be, what's something in the last few years that you took away that has actually helped you make better beer yourself?
Oh.
Sorry, I should have researched that as well.
Yeah, way to put me on the spot, buddy.
I'll go first. So we went a couple of years ago, right? And we were in one of the booths. I can't remember who it was, but just had this side conversation with one of the reps about how they were doing their triclover welding. It might have been Spike. I'm not going to sell that because I'm not 100% sure of that. But that led me, honestly, to start down the path towards the conical that I have now that is all triclover, but also about trying to get to this concept of limiting post-fermentation oxygenation in keeping everything closed, using CO2 to push beer from one vessel to another without exposing it to the air. I feel that that's made a difference on the longevity of my beer, but not necessarily the upfront flavors. I don't think that it's any better in terms of the flavors I'm producing, but I think that the bottom of the keg tastes better than it used to. That's kind of my big takeaway.
Yeah, that's an interesting take, right? Because, we go there to sample beers, but it's not just that, right? There's, hardware, we can actually go talk to people that make home brewing equipment. It's a really good point. Now that I've had a few minutes to think and reflect, right, when I go to GABF, I'm always going to be looking for the Belgian beers. We've talked about it a lot. That's my wheelhouse.
Yep.
But I also secondarily go always with another style in mind that I generally wouldn't drink normally. And I try to get accustomed to that style of beer and get as many samples of that as possible, right? So I think a couple of years ago, I just tried as many Pilsners as I could, just straight up Pilsners, right? Just trying to find out what should a Pilsner really taste like, try to find some good classic commercial examples of the style, plus some other interpretations just from some smaller breweries, and then turn around and go brew that, right? So I've done that with Pilsners. That worked out really well. American Ambers too, right? So I have an American Amber ALX that I basically always have on tap for the most part. Yeah, it's a really good one. But ALX was, the result of sampling American Ambers at Great American Beer Festival.
Nice.
Yeah.
I did not know that part of the story. That's great.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the twist on that is that that's probably the style of any of the BJCP styles that I probably had the most familiarity with before I started going to GABF. And now it's the one that I drink the least. I make a red that I'm really happy with, and I make a classic amber that I just toy with the hops at this point, which, by the way, folks, if you haven't played with Sabro yet and you're a homebrewer, go do that. If not, go buy a beer that says Sabro on it, because that's my newest thing is I am experimenting with that in an amber. And I have to say, you helped me break out of that shell of what I thought I had known. And my story of getting to this level of beer nerdiness is obviously long and convoluted. We'll deal with that on another show, but it doesn't stop. I thought I had, XYZ experience. And even last year, after having been back brewing for a few years, now I'm starting to see even more subtleties. And it really hits me that the industry, not just in the professional brewing, but in the home brewing as well, is expanding exponentially before our eyes. And it's a shame that more people aren't getting into it right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Now's a really good time to get into home brewing. It's very unfortunate that GABF isn't going to be there to catalyze that movement for all the people that would be getting into brewing right now. But what can you do?
Yeah, just keep on trucking, keep drinking. So that's what I'm going to do. What's next up? By the time we get back together, what have you brewed recently that we might see?
Yeah, good question. So you forgot earlier to ask me what I was drinking, Ryan, and that is
that's because I'm a
Perla
selfish
honey beer. I have no idea. My wife brought this home, said try it. I'm trying it right now, but it is kind of timely because the last beer that I brewed that I'm actually waiting for some equipment to come in so that I can actually bottle it is a honey beer. So I've been experimenting a little bit with honey lately.
Nice.
And I'm really excited about this beer. In fact, we got to do multiple shows around honey and
absolutely
sugar adjuncts and stuff. But anyway, before we dive into that, so that's what I've got. It's ready to keg. Actually, I'm going to keg half. I'm going to bottle half.
Nice.
Using honey in the bottle to referment.
As your secondary? Okay.
Nice. Well, not in secondary, but in the bottle.
Okay.
So in a bottle conditioned with honey, keg half of it. And I think it'll be a nice A/B test to see how much the bottling actually contributes to the beer.
That's awesome. So you're talking about bottle conditioning and carbonation, not like a secondary fermentation.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. I look forward to drinking many of those.
Or you can call it re-ferment into the bottle
Sure.
conditioning.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah. But it's carbonating in the bottle with honey.
That's awesome. So are you going to use the same honey that you used in the kettle?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I used honey in the kettle. I used honey in the fermenter.
Okay.
Primary fermentation. So added some more honey then, and it kicked fermentation back up. And I'll use some to bottle too.
Oh, that's really interesting. All right. So this is a common thing that I haven't done that now you got me excited. So tell me this. How did you gauge when to add the honey? Was it something to do with the Croissant? Did you watch the gravity? When did you choose to put more honey in it?
I was watching the Croissant. It was right after high Croissant, right?
Okay.
So there's all sorts of science behind when to add the honey and when to add it in the boil, when to try to words are escaping me.
They come, they go. It's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, we can edit all this part out. Anyway, when to add the honey, I mean, there's science behind it, right? So I did a bunch of research. This is my first honey beer, right? I'm no expert in honey beers or using beer or honey in beers. But I've done enough research now where I think we can talk about it on a show.
That's awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it because I have lots and lots of questions because not only do I want to do, what is it? Beer de meal? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Okay. Not only do I want to do one of those eventually, but I also want to do one based on maple in the secondary.
Oh, sure. That would be fun.
I'm looking for that. So especially now that I'm playing with Sabro and there's an amber and that's going to come together eventually. But I think we're going to have to just cut that there because otherwise we're going to get too deep.
Yeah,
we will
sure.
go into this. So folks, look for in a show or two, we'll get into the beer to meal and how you use honey and some of that, as well as, like Mike said, a bunch of the adjuncts in general that help you not only prop up the ABV, but continue to keep that fermentation kicking. There's a couple of techniques that we'll talk about as well, about how you take, how do you achieve an 18% barley wine? Well, you keep feeding it sugar. And it's a very specific process of oxygenation versus sugar and how you do that without messing the whole thing up. Something that I'm doing a lot of research on right now. So we're excited about that. So I think we'll probably cut it there, Mike. Anything that you want to say to everybody?
Pasteurize. Pasteurize. That's the word I was looking for.
Okay. I'm glad you found that.
I can end the show without hating myself now.
Oh, well, that's it for us from the Strange Beer Corner, we'll call it, folks. If you're not subbed, hit the sub button, hit the like button, hit that bell notification so you know when we talk about beer again, because we will do quite a bit of that. We have more coming on the Pico Brew series. We have more coming on the Spiconical series. We have some coming on the Grainfather series. I'm looking forward to that because I don't even know how to use the thing yet. So keep your eyes peeled. We'll continue with the beer reviews, and welcome aboard for all of you new subs. We know that you're here, and we're happy you're here. Leave your comments below. Tell me what you're looking for. If there's topics that you want to hear about, we will help address those. So thanks for watching us today. Mike, thanks for your time.
Cheers, friends.
Cheers. And we will catch you next time.